Alright, this is John Cullen with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. And in this episode, I want to share actually with you guys, now that I've been into a raw vegan diet now since 1995. So literally that's like 24 years I've been raw vegan. I can't say I've been 100% raw vegan, although that was my goal way back when I made the commitment to myself back in 1995 to be raw. I've been like 99% raw. I don't like cook rice, I don't cook potatoes. I don't cook any kind of foods like that, although I do include some heat processed foods. I'll put a link down below, 10 foods I eat that are not raw. But anyways, in this episode, I want to share with you guys actually what I've learned over these 24 years that I've been eating a raw food, plant-based diet, rich in literally fruits and vegetables, which are the best foods on the planet for me. And this is the video that I'm making to myself. If I could go back in time. And if like, I was starting raw foods and this guy said, and I came back to see myself like Back to the Future, right? And I said, John, make sure you do these things, man. Do them now before you possibly get yourself in trouble later, so you could even have better health than you did back then, right? I would love to have this ability to do this. I think, especially like if the lottery comes, right? The lottery's this Sunday or whatever, whenever they pick the lottery numbers, and like I knew the numbers, I want to go back in time and like pick the right numbers, right? You might win $18 million or whatever, how much the lotteries are. But money is not as valuable to your health as your health. So I want to encourage you guys, even if you could pick the lottery numbers, I really want you guys to put some of the things that I've learned into practice. As soon as I learn some of these new things that I'll be sharing with you guys, I try to implement them into my life to the best of my ability. And I'm not perfect. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect or anything. I got stuff going on in my life. And although I may make videos to explain things and share my opinions and knowledge and experiences with you, I'm just trying to do the best I can too, So remember that, and remember that you guys are just trying to do the best you can. So even if you implement one or two of these things, the more, the better, all right? So 10 things that I wish I knew when I started raw foods and that I had implemented earlier in my diet, all right? So let's get started with number one, and that's why I got the nuts here. We got raw macadamia nuts, dehydrated from Hawaii, my favorite ones. And then we got some dates, and of course we got some raw nut butter, right? So one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was raw, because there was no such thing as the internet way back when, was, I thought that as long as it's raw, it's not heated above 118 degrees, it's all right, no matter what it was, right? So, I went down to like a local health food store. It's actually the Alvarado Street Bakery food store where I was living, and I was able to buy date paste, which is basically dates that have been pitted, then mushed up together to form a date paste, and it was just like the most delicious thing ever, right? And I would just buy bulk date paste, and it'd come in slabs, almost like a big loaf of bread. I'd take a knife and I'd slice it, and then I'd have like a big slab of date paste, and then I'd take like nut butter and just spread it on there. And at night, because I wasn't eating enough fresh fruits, and more importantly fresh vegetables, I was running at a calorie deficit. So then my body was craving something. My body was craving calories, right? So I got the most concentrated source of calories I could, which are dried fruits, on a raw food diet anyways, dried fruits and nuts. So I basically take the nut butter or nuts, slather it on the date paste, and just eat it until I was just like, I was like, oh, it's so good. And yes, it was so good, but it's so high in calories and lacking in some of the valuable phytonutrients, right? And I know friends, even to this day, and I used to do this a little bit when I got into raw foods, is basically just, you're hungry, so what do you snack on? My dad still does this, actually. You'll just go to the fridge and get out like the container of nuts, whether that's a package or whatever. You'll go to the Trader Joe's and buy a bag of cashews, open it up, and just start eating them right out of the bag. Before you know it, the bag's empty. And you're like, oh my God, I just ate that whole 1 pound of cashews, right? And okay, yes, they're raw, they're healthier than eating a hamburger by far, but, I think a green juice would be a lot healthier, right? So, in my younger years, I basically had too many concentrated foods And the problem with that is, not that these foods are bad by any means, they're quite actually healthy, but the problem is when you eat more of the concentrated foods, that means you have less space for the foods that are even greater or better for your health, such as the water-rich foods. Whether you want to eat fresh fruits are definitely better than eating dried fruits, and fresh fruits definitely better than eating some nuts in many cases, although, I do want you guys to have the proper amount of fats in your diet, And so back then I was probably eating, a lot higher fat than I should have been. And nowadays I try to keep my fat between 15 to 20% calories and fat. So basically how that works out a day, and I don't ever measure this, I usually take about a handful of nuts a day, maybe a handful and a half, maybe 2 max. That's it, max. That's all the fats I like to eat in a day. And I basically put that in my salad dressing or my evening blended salad or my soup, and the fats can help assimilate the absorption of some of the, phytonutrients, that are in whatever else I'm eating at the time. Sometimes also if I'm having blueberries, I might take a couple nuts and just eat a few nuts before I eat the blueberries to have some fat in with the blueberries. But actually, nowadays I like to actually eat some coconut yogurt, raw coconut yogurt, before eating the blueberries. So yeah, don't overeat your concentrated, water-deprived foods, including dried fruits and nuts. And especially now that I have a freeze dryer, this is coming back to haunt me because I have so much freeze-dried, delicious food that's hanging out, and so I have to limit myself on eating these concentrated sources of calories when I have plenty of other foods that are actually quite healthier and quite better. Now the reason why we seek out these concentrated foods is because they basically make a bigger dopamine hit in our brain. So because they're more concentrated, it makes us feel better faster than fruits or vegetables would. So I want you guys to be aware of this, and I want you guys, next time you're gonna maybe get a handful of nuts, hey, get some baby carrots or some regular carrots and start chewing on them. Grab an apple and orange, whatever else. Blueberries, eat some blueberries instead, right? So my second tip is to take care of your teeth. You only get one set of teeth. I had to get a root canal many years ago. It's not the best thing to get, and I'm kind of wondering if I should get it taken out. But that's one other topic. But I could tell you guys now, or I would tell my previous self, hey John, take care of your teeth, man, because you only get one set. So here's the thing, right? When I was younger, I thought, oh yeah, animals in nature, they don't brush their teeth, so I don't need to brush my teeth either. That was really bad. I really didn't pay attention to my oral hygiene as well as I should have. In my early years of being raw, plus the overconsumption of the dried fruits that tend to stick to the teeth, that's not a good sight. So I want you guys to take care of your teeth. Super important. I'm going to hopefully make an in-depth video about my whole teeth care routine, but I will give you some tips in this little section coming at you from my bathroom, all right? So number one is not even about taking care of your teeth, but it's eating proper food. So number one, try to avoid acidic fruits that aren't optimally ripe, such as citrus this time of year. I know a lot of you guys are eating citrus right now, but if I eat citrus right now, my teeth will start to hurt because the acid in the citrus do a number on my teeth. Hopefully you have good teeth so it doesn't hurt you, but you want to minimize the acid in your mouth. So I would recommend, if you're drinking orange juice or other juices, dilute them down with some coconut water, some regular water, some celery juice, some cucumber juice to taper them down a little bit. If you're eating citrus that's not optimally ripe, alternate bites and mouthfuls by eating some cucumber, some celery, some other kind of water-rich fruit. Take a swig of coconut water, afterwards, or as you're eating. The thing I like to do if I'm having citrus fruits and it's not avoidable, I like to eat all the citrus, and I'll take this little container and I'll just put it into my mouth, and I'll just put a bunch of baking soda in my mouth right after I'm done eating the citrus, and I'll just swish it around in there with my saliva to neutralize some of the acid in my mouth. I don't like brushing right after I'm done eating. I like to wait at least 30 minutes to an hour after I'm done eating, because you could wear the enamel off your teeth if you brush too soon. But I will rinse with baking soda. You could also rinse with water. The other thing I will do immediately after eating something like that is I will take my Reach Access, I think this is also called Listerine Ultra Clean. These are the unflavored refills. I don't like to get the flavored ones. But this tool is literally, you can just put it in your mouth, and you could easily floss your mouth quickly and easily without having to wrap dental floss around your fingers and put your fingers in your mouth and all this kind of stuff, which I don't think is super hygienic. But that makes it really easy. I do recommend that. It's available at like Target or Walmart. The unit's about like $2, and like these refills for like a whole big pack is like $4. So it's definitely worth your investment. So I do floss right after I'm eating in many times, and especially before bed, so that no food particles are stuck in between my mouth. Because here's the fact of the matter, you know, the decay happens in your mouth because of the food particles, because of the bacteria, you know, and the bacteria which feeds, or the food that feeds us also feeds the bacteria. So you want to try to get those out. Flossing is definitely one good way to do that. Another thing is brushing. So, you know, I do like to brush. I have a special Soliday toothbrush here from Japan. It actually has a solar panel. It says that titanium dioxide is released from this little metal piece, which basically will kill more bacteria and get your teeth cleaner. I think that's true. If you don't want to invest in one of these $40 toothbrushes, you know, then you might want to minimally get a toothbrush that actually has the built-in silver impregnated into the bristles that'll reduce the bacteria load on your toothbrush. Because every time you brush, or if your toothbrush is just sitting in your bathroom, you're flushing the toilet, bacteria could be landing on your toothbrush, and then when you brush the next time, that bacteria that was living on your toothbrush is now going back in your mouth. So we want to decrease that. So this is a good way, or the special silver impregnated toothbrushes bristles. And then the other thing I have is I have a UV toothbrush sterilizer. That's this guy right here. Basically, whatever I put in there, including my tongue scraper, you know, there's a UV light that when I close this, it basically lights up a blue light, and that UV light basically kills all the bacteria on my toothbrush and my different utensils that I'm using. You know, I just like to use a manual toothbrush. Some of those electric ones may brush too hard, and you don't really want to like scrub your teeth too hard. You want to actually get a nice soft or extra soft bristle, just to kind of like, you know, brush them gently and lightly. And then next thing I want to share is a toothpaste. So toothpaste, I use a lot of different toothpaste. Some of these I use because of my dental situation this time, because my enamel is worn down, because I have sensitive teeth and I feel pain sometimes when, because the enamel is worn down, the dentin tubules or whatever, like my nerves, you know, I'll feel things. So I need to use a remineralization toothpaste. So if you guys have sensitive teeth, you should use these toothpastes. If not, you might want to, you know, use this once a week just to make sure you have, you know, good mineralization on your teeth. The other thing I will mention is you want to eat a mineral-rich diet. You know, diets of today are mineral deficient, in my opinion, due to the conventionally raised, even organically raised food. So I try to grow my own food and add 70 to 90 different trace minerals in the garden so I can have the highest quality food. In addition, I also eat seaweeds for some trace minerals that can be beneficial. But anyways, so the different toothpaste I use, this is like the best one I like the most, that literally takes care of my tooth sensitivities. Now I can't read any of this because it's all in Japanese. This is actually called the ApaGuard Royal. We'll go ahead and put that on the screen. ApaGuard Royal there for you. I get it on Amazon. This stuff's like $40 a tube. If you don't want to get the ApaGuard Royal, which is the high-end stuff, they have like a regular ApaGuard. I forget the one, but it actually has a less of the mineralization properties, but that one's not as good. But actually that's what the one I take when I'm traveling. This is the one I keep at home. And then I don't know the ingredients on this. They're probably not the super like most like healthiest. They're not like the worst like Crest or anything like that. But you know what? For me, the benefits of the no tooth sensitivity outweigh any kind of, you know, potentially, you know, ingredients that are not optimal in my opinion. That being said, for those of you guys that are anal and want to have the healthiest stuff, I found that too. This is actually called the Theodent. So the Theodent, this is the kids, actually I like it because it's actually chocolate flavored, it tastes amazing. But the Theodent is it's basically derived from cacao, and it's a remineralization agent derived from cacao that'll help remineralize our teeth. I used this stuff before I found out about the ApaGuard, and I still like to come back to this because I don't like to use any one toothpaste, just like I don't like to eat any one single fruit all year. I like to always rotate different ones, figuring this toothpaste might work better synergistically with the other one. But they do have actually a different one of these Theodents. They have a Theodent. It's like $100 tube. It's like a white tube. That's the one I'd recommend if you really had some issues. But I think this one might even be available at Whole Foods, so you could probably pick it up easier. A lot of these you might have to order online. But this is a lot more natural, than the AppGuard. All right. Sometimes when I'm feeling like a hippie, I might not use either of these guys. Then I'll use my Earth Paste, which is basically like a more natural toothpaste. It's like a clay. And then even then, sometimes I might want to use this, which is called My Magic Mud. So My Magic Mud is basically a tooth whitening powder to try to keep my teeth clean due to all the highly pigmented vegetables I eat and teeth staining. And this just kind of gets my, this has basically activated charcoal plus some other stuff in there, so it gets my teeth squeaky clean. So I might use like the remineralization toothpaste like, 4 to 5 times a week. And maybe, the other 3 times or 2 times a week, I might use the Earth Paste or this stuff. And that's just kind of what I do. I kind of rotate. If my teeth are sensitive, then I'm using that stuff. And then if I just want to get them extra clean one day, I'll use this. I like to just rotate through the different ones. And, the other thing that I want to encourage you guys is to go and get regular dental checkups, right? Dental checkups can be quite beneficial in my opinion. You want to get regular cleanings to head off any problems before they occur. And go find yourself a good naturopathic, natural dentist, that's not using all them toxic things. There's definitely some good dentists out there. You might have to look pretty hard. You might have to travel outside your local city to find one. Tip number 3 I would give myself is focus on having a peaceful life. Now this is super huge, super important. Yeah, diet's important. What we put into our body is important. But even more importantly, on some levels, is what we put in our minds, our thoughts in our heads, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to say I'm the spiritual expert or anything like this, but I have worked on some of my own challenges in life. And, one of the things that was, I tend to still be like a more type A, control freak type of person. And, when things don't go my way, I might get upset a little bit, when I was younger. But you know what, as I'm getting more mature in my years, I've learned to just not let things bother you that much. Somebody cuts you off in the freeway, not like, screw you, man! just chill out, like it's all right. Like he's got somewhere to go. Maybe he's dying of a heart attack because he just ate McDonald's or something, and laugh it off, right? And so, there's all kinds of situations that happen in our life. Good, bad, right, wrong, indifferent, and we need to just, you can't change like the outside world. You can't change that the president's doing this, or that your neighbor did that to you, or your husband or your wife or your girlfriend, boyfriend did that. But what you are in charge of is how you react to the situation, right? And so I want you guys to be less reactive, instead of like, I kind of think of it like this, when there's like a fire, right? If you pour gas in the fire, right, it starts to blow up and even grows bigger, right? And so instead of putting gas on the fire when there's a fire coming into your life, right, put water on it, right? Put water on it. I put water on the fire goes out, right? So when there's an explosive situation in your life, right, think about, how can I put water on this, right? And tell yourself the words, speak them out loud on how you could literally diffuse the situation and just not make it a big deal, because, in the end, it's not really a big deal. It's not really a big deal. So I want you guys to put water on your explosive situations to just calm them down, Also, I like to say focus on a peaceful life, and this is verse, I could say live a stress-free life, but then I have the operand word of stress in there. So I don't want to focus on a stress-free life. I want to focus on a peaceful life. But no matter how you guys do it, I want you guys to not be as reactive, put water on it, and, get back to nature, take walks in nature, connect with the earth, hey, walk barefoot, be that hippie that you've always wanted to be, maybe just cut your hair. And just connect with the earth, and that's why I love my gardening so much, because, if I have this stressed out day or whatever's happening, and my day's not as peaceful, I just come out to my garden and just look and observe, man, and I could just, pet my ornamental kales and cabbages and parsley here, and just be in awe in nature, And the other thing is, I tell myself is to live in gratitude, and, and just be happy for what you have, because so many people, have less, and be grateful and thankful in your life, and focus on these things, focus on being grateful and thankful, forgiving, and and put water on it. So that's about all I'm going to say to that. I think that would have definitely helped me a lot, when I was younger. So tip number 4 is to focus on more vegetables than fruits, right? I mean, I eat tons of fruits, oranges this time of year. I got some pineapples, got a lot of blueberries, got apples, a few persimmons left, got jackfruit. I love my fruits, right? But I wish if I could go back in time, I'd tell myself, John, eat more vegetables, man. Fruits are really easy to eat. I know some of you guys might have to force the vegetables down, but they're really not that bad. And in my opinion, they're so much more healthy for you, right? And they're lower in calories, and more importantly, in most cases, higher in phytonutrients and especially the minerals, right? And I want you guys to increase those in your diet, and I wish I could have known this earlier, because, when I was younger, I would eat like 2 fruit meals a day, sometimes maybe 3 fruit meals a day, and just pound in the fruit. And yeah, if you're an athlete, you're doing heavy exertion, physical activity, you're burning a lot of calories, yes, you got to eat more fruits than vegetables. But for the rest of us, I would say, focus on more vegetables. And even if you're an athlete, try to get in more vegetables than fruits, Whether that's vegetables like, celery, the almighty celery. If you're on the medical medium, know who that guy is. I do celery juice pretty much every morning these days, 16 ounces. I was doing 32 ounces for a while. And instead of eating fruit for breakfast, which I normally might do back in the day, I'm drinking celery juice for breakfast, and then I might have a different juice a little bit later, right? And the vegetables are just so delicious, whether you want to eat celery, whether you want to eat zucchini, which are like a vegetable, even though it's technically a fruit, it's just a non-sweet fruit. More cucumbers, more leafy greens, more cauliflower, more broccoli, or even look for rare vegetables like this. This is actually called a puntarelle, right? And this is related to chicory. I don't know if you guys can even see this. Let me see if I can show you guys what that looks like. All right, this vegetable is so cool. It's like the Romans ate this. I mean, this is literally like a wild vegetable. It has like these leaves that you can eat. They're kind of like bitter, like dandelions, and they have like these funny little shoot things. I don't know. I can't even describe what they look like. I mean, that's what it looks like. But they're kind of bitter. I like to dip this in guacamole, and this is actually tonight's dinner. But I want you guys to include more vegetables. Now, whether you got to juice those vegetables, whether you got to put them in smoothies, whether you have to, dehydrate them into kale chips, I want you guys to eat more vegetables, or focus on them instead of the fruits. I'm not going to say fruit's bad. Fruit is great, but we want to make sure we get our vegetables. The problem with eating too much fruit is if you're eating too much fruit, you're not leaving enough room for the vegetables, right? If you want more information on this topic, hey, check the link down below that Dr. Rick Dina and I made just, I put it out a couple weeks ago. Now, put a link in the description where we go into more about eating too much fruit and how it actually could be dangerous and problematic. So the 5th tip I would give myself is to John. I'd say you got to start slow juicing like every day, man. Like make it one of your habits that you always do, because that will start off your day right. I like to generally start off my day with juice. Lately, I've been having celery juice, but sometimes I might have a different juice. And then after my initial 16 ounces of celery juice, then I'll get into a different juice, whether that's like a green juice or, lately I got a lot of cucumbers, pineapple, beets, and purple carrots, and ginger. I would say, John, you got to start slow juicing every day because, there's a few reasons why I like juicing. Number one, it breaks down the hard vegetable fibers. It allows me to eat more carrots than I would have otherwise and get the valuable phytonutrients. And I've been juicing the purple carrots, which are one of the most healthiest foods on the planet. If you can't get purple carrots near you, hey, juice some purple or red cabbage. That's also really good. But I love the juicing. I mean, it's one of the easiest ways to break your fast or eat breakfast. Instead of eating a meal of even fruits, I like to drink juice instead. And when I got into raw foods, I actually had a Juice Man 2 juicer was my first juicer, and they didn't really have a whole lot of slow juicers back then. And I didn't really get into slow juicers until later because they had like the Juice Man and the Champion, and they had like the super expensive green power juicer way back in the day. And I really didn't get one of those slow juicers back then because I really wasn't aware of how much more beneficial it is than the high-speed machines. I really hate using high-speed machines these days. Unless I have to make a video with it, they sit on my shelf. This is the juicer that I use right here. This is the Omega VSJ843, and that's the one that I like at this time when this video is being made. Maybe something new will come out pretty soon. But basically, it juices greens really well, juices root vegetables, juices fruits. Basically, it's an all-around good juicer. Now, it doesn't really have multi-function properties, although you can make sorbets. And nut butters in it, and I will give you guys a disclaimer. I do sell juicers for a living, so if you want to support me and my work, please make your purchase at discountjuicers.com. A link is down below. Also to my YouTube channel where I demonstrate juicers, so you guys can get the right one for you. Even though this is the one I like, doesn't mean it's the right one for you. If you're going to juice like a lot of wheatgrass and sprouts and cannabis greens, then you might want to get the Omega NC800, which is definitely better for greens. But this is basically an all-around good performer. On some items I juice, this machine does not even extract that much, like carrots and root vegetables, not the best, so then I have a wetter pulp. I might feed the pulp back through the machine a second time to get a further extraction, which is usually pretty good. But if I want to get every last drop out and do it optimally, then that's where the machine behind, this is a pure juicer. It's basically like a Norwalk, but it's an improved Norwalk, so even better than the Norwalk. I have a video, if I remember, I'll put a link down below, comparing this to a Norwalk, how this one is in fact better. That being said, I don't like the grinding aspect because it runs at a high speed. So this way I'm juicing in the low speed juicer, 43 RPMs instead of like 4,000 RPMs grinding. And then basically I put the pulp that's generated at a slow speed into the press part of the juicer and then press out the extra. So if I'm juicing celery, for example, I press out the celery pulp. It gets 16% more juice. But if I'm making my pineapple, carrot, beet, ginger recipe, then I've gotten up to like 46% more juice, so I'm wasting less pulp. And I would have told myself that, John, man, you got to get a press. It's going to save you money in the long run. I mean, I sold a press to Dr. Rick Dino as a hand crank jack press, and hey, that's cool if you want to go through the extra work, but I really like how I could just flip this couple switches on the Pure and it just presses out every last drop quickly and easily. But yeah, I really want you guys to get into juicing. As much as I did juice way back in the day, I didn't juice as much as I believe I should have, and definitely not as much as I could have, and especially focusing on the vegetables and the leafy greens, to get more of those into me, which would then displace some of the heavy fruit meals that I had when I was younger. So the sixth thing I wish I would have did differently if I knew what I knew now back then was grow a garden sooner. As you guys see, I'm here in my garden. I mean, right now it's probably like 40 degrees outside, a little bit chilly, but that's all right, my plants here, and this bed is a bed of lettuce, including red lettuce and green lettuce, and this is like arugula and baby lettuce and kale. It's all growing amazing, and over on this bed I have a lot more celery planted and beets, and I have so many different things growing in my garden, right? And I wish I only started growing like right when I got into raw foods, right? And you guys have the opportunity to do that because you're not me. I didn't really start gardening until about 5 years into my raw foods lifestyle. And until then, I was literally a slave to the system, to farmers that would grow food, I still go to farmers markets. I still buy organic produce like I did back then. But even better than that is to grow your own food, right? And there's lots of reasons for this. I'll point out a few of them. Number one, for me, it's all about the freshness and the quality of the food. I guess that's maybe two, but I could come here and harvest my arugula right here, right? I just picked it and I eat it. Oh my God, like arugula fresh from the garden is so much different than like out of like one of those little bins, like baby arugula you buy, or it's just like so like fiery and sweet at the same time, especially with the cold weather. It makes all the produce in my garden even sweeter. So you're gonna have fresher quality produce, which means higher nutrients. That's not grammatically correct, but it's gonna have higher nutrition because literally you pick it and then literally you eat it, or you bring it inside, you process it, and then you consume it, right? There's studies that show within 24 hours of harvesting certain produce items, significant nutrients can be lost, right? And, in the end, I want you guys to have optimal success on a raw foods diet, and I want to have optimal success, and that's why I grow a garden, because I see the difference. I feel the difference in me when I harvest things fresh and pick it and eat it versus buy like a 3-pack of romaine hearts, that's almost like stark pale white versus like nice deep green, or even better yet, like these deep rich red romaine lettuce leaves that I'm growing. So number one is the quality, the freshness, you could pick it and eat it. And number two, you could add things to the soil that the farmers are simply, unfortunately, not doing. You know, this includes things like the trace minerals. I add rock dust and ocean solids that adds 70 to 90 different trace minerals in my garden. So consequently, they should be in my food. And then even on top of that, I supplement fertilizer with additional trace minerals in amounts to make sure they're in the food. So things like selenium, things like zinc, I add specifically to my soil so that my plants will absorb these nutrients. And then when I eat the plants, I will get my minerals not from a centrum A to Z of zinc, but from the food like nature has intended, but due to industrial farming practices. And yes, even organic farming practices, you know, those farmers don't necessarily or aren't concerned with, for the most part, adding these special trace minerals back so that you get the most complete food. And if you guys can't or ain't able to grow your own, then minimally to get these trace minerals in a natural form, I would recommend increasing your consumption of seaweeds. And I also eat seaweeds in addition to the plants. I don't have a seaweed-based diet, but a little bit of sprinkle of seaweed, you know, in most meals at dinner time is what I like to do. And so you could have higher quality, picked fresher. And then the other thing that's super huge to me, and only because I'm a gardener I know this, is the variety of foods, right? If you go to Whole Foods or Whole Paycheck or your local grocery store, your Smith's, Kroger's, whatever you guys have there where you live, and you go to the grocery department, the produce department, you're like, wow, there's so much produce. There's like maybe 100, maybe 200 different varieties. You got apples, you got lemons, you got escarole, you got cucumbers, you got tomatoes, you got avocados, you know, you got different kinds of leafy greens. But what you guys don't know is that when you guys grow your own food, literally you could grow almost anything depending on where you live, right? But the varieties that you could eat expand greatly. And you know, some of the things I love growing are like wild foods. You know, I grow stinging nettles. I got some over there. I got this stuff called Cretan rock lettuce, which is totally amazing. The taste is out of this world. It's from literally the Mediterranean in Crete. It grows between rocks and it's so hardy. In the wintertime, it's like growing so good right now. Doesn't like the 100-degree summers. You know, I grow these different kind of cilantros called Popolo in the summertime. There's so many different flavors and textures, and more importantly for me, phytonutrients. So plants are literally chemical factories, right? I like the red lettuces because they're creating red pigments or anthocyanins in their flesh. And when I get to eat the tender young flesh of my lettuce, you know, I get these chemicals within me, and every plant is a little bit different. You know, this lettuce makes the anthocyanins, and the green lettuce right here does not. But, you know, my ashwatthama could make these things called chalcones, you know, which have been shown in some testing that I've seen to be anti-cancer, right? And so literally, if you do not go grow a garden and you do not go out of your way to grow some of these exotic foods, right, you're not going to get some of these unique phytonutrients as well as different kinds of plants uptake different minerals. So everybody knows, like, eat Brazil nuts for your selenium. Well, that's because Brazil nuts, if they have selenium-rich soil, will uptake the selenium in higher amounts than most foods in the grocery store. But did you know that my catnip or catmint, which cats love and I also love, is also will accumulate the selenium within it as well. So I've supplemented you know, selenium into the soil where my catmint is growing, and I eat my catnip and I get the selenium, right? And so you can only do that. You know, can you even buy catnip in the store to eat as a culinary herb? I don't even think so. You could probably buy it for your cats and then eat it. I don't know if I'd recommend that though. But, you know, so gardening. Oh my God, you guys got to start gardening. That's why I'm so passionate about gardening. That's why actually I teach gardening, and my gardening channel has over 500,000 followers now, and I think over 70 million views. It's the most popular gardening channel on YouTube. I want you guys to get started in gardening. Seriously, no joke. Click down below to a link to my YouTube channel. And even if you guys don't have space outdoors to grow food, you could grow in a container. I have plenty of episodes growing in a container, including a cool episode I recently did where I'm growing Napa cabbage that has freaking exploded. And in addition, you know, you could grow sprouts and microgreens indoors. If you got a mason jar, you got some pantyhose and a rubber band and some seeds, you could basically be sprouting your own microgreens and sprouts indoors. And then inside, if you want to set up a rack with some lights, you could grow your own microgreens. And these foods are even more nutritious than some of the lettuces and things that you guys are seeing in my garden, because of the baby plants that are, you know, I don't know, 20 times to 200 times more nutritious than the big ones. The problem with those is that, you know, they're a lot smaller, so you got to grow a lot more of them, you know, and a lot less of these. Plus these ones, I plant them once and literally I just watch them grow. I haven't done really anything to this lettuce other than set the bed up, properly plant and space them. My irrigation comes on every day, and now I just get to come out and harvest them and eat. With the microgreens and sprouts, they take a little bit more labor, but they're definitely worth it. So the 7th tip that I would give myself, and I would have had to tell myself this because, I mean, these appliances were not around when I started Raw Foods. I would say, John, you got to invent a vacuum blender, man. I'm coming back to you from the future, but nobody knows about this stuff yet. It's not going to be even invented for another like 20 years. But I would have started vacuum blending sooner rather than later. Oh my God, I blend up so many smoothies in my day. And to know that literally I was degrading the smoothie, degrading some of the valuable antioxidants. I mean, this is why, one of the reasons why Raw Foods is so beneficial is because you're minimally processing your food and you're keeping the high levels of antioxidants, phytonutrients, and polyphenols, and these kinds of things, right? And when you put items in a blender, as much as it turns the cells inside out and makes the nutrients more available, right? At the same time, it also has an air funnel funneling into the food, and it's bombarding the food with excess oxygen, right? If you cut open an apple, it turns brown. If you blend it in a Vitamix, it turns brown even faster. When you can blend apples, even if you blend bananas, you'll see that mixture turn brown really fast, and that's a sign of oxidation. And there are now published scientific studies that show certain nutrients can increase by 2.5, maybe even 3 times if you vacuum blend than if you don't blend. So number one is the reason for vacuum blending is the nutrition. You're going to get a higher levels of nutrition. You know, what if these very nutrients that could be 2.5 times higher, and if you're blending like blueberries up, certain polyphenol antioxidants, than if you don't. So literally every time you're blending something, if it's not in a vacuum, you're basically destroying some of the nutrients that could have been there. And that's why actually I like chewing better than blending, because our teeth run at a slow RPM, much slower than a blender, and it does not damage the food as much. That being said, hey, blenders are convenient. Sometimes you could, drink more or eat more, and it makes eating things that you might not normally eat more convenient, right? So vacuum blending, super key, super important. And other reasons for vacuum blending, number one, especially if you do Instagram like I do, check out my Instagram at Growing Your Greens. Link is down below in the description. The vibrant colors. So, when you blend things like that are tomatoes and sun-dried tomatoes, it makes it a nice ruddy color. If you vacuum blend, it keeps the colors brighter because that's a sign of oxidative damage that's happening when you're not blending under vacuum. And that's kind of superficial, but another thing that does really matter is the taste. The tastes are stronger when you vacuum blend than when you don't, because there are more nutrients in there that actually you're tasting. Number 3, the texture is amazing. There's less separation, and more importantly, there's less air bubbles mixed into your blended mixture. If you ever blend in the Vitamix and then you add, you blend stuff up, and then when you're done, you've created more. That's because it added so much air into the mixture, because you're blending in a traditional system that does add air into your mixture, and that's just what happens. So you might get extra gas or bloating or belching, gas, whatever, and in a vacuum blender, basically, that doesn't happen. I mean, one of my cool tests I did with vacuum blenders, I put a little soap and water in a vacuum blender and not in a vacuum blender, and the one that wasn't in a vacuum blender, it was like bubbling over like Bobby Brady in the washing machine episode when he put too much detergent in there, and the vacuum blender didn't bubble over as much, because there's less air to interact with the soap that creates all the bubbles, right? And so that's super huge for me. And texture's really good. Also, the storage capability, right? So once you blend in a Vitamix or your Blendtec or whatever blender, you make a banana smoothie, and you have a banana smoothie, you fill it up, you make a lot, you can't drink it all. So then you put the rest aside and you let it sit for a couple hours. Then you come back to drink it later and you drink it and you're like, oh my God, this tastes gross. That's because when you blended, you lost a lot of the antioxidants that should have been there to protect the food from oxidizing further. So once you're done blending, the foods oxidize a lot, and then it oxidizes even more rapidly when it's sitting. Whereas in a vacuum blender, you don't lose those antioxidants during the blend, so afterwards, if you have to store your mixtures, your smoothies, whatever, there's more antioxidants to protect it, so that it tastes pretty much the same like later, right? I don't recommend storing your smoothies, but if you did need to store them, your other blended mixtures, a vacuum blender can considerably help. There's some other, key things about vacuum blenders. Let's see, more nutrition, better texture, less separation, less air in the mixture. I mean, it is just clearly the way to go. And I know a lot of you guys, but John, man, vacuum blenders are so expensive. Yes, true, vacuum blenders can get up there. Some of the models I sell are $650, $600, but it doesn't have to be that way. As much as I demonstrate many vacuum blenders on my website and sell them, discountjuicers.com, I also offer different alternatives. So I want to go over some of these for you guys so that you guys are not priced out of a vacuum blender, because I believe it is so important to your health. And for those of you guys that have no money, right, I even have a video showing how you guys could turn a NutriBullet into a vacuum blender for just 20 bucks. You buy this kit, which basically consists of a pump and some of these air plugs here, and basically you could just put this on the top, and you could basically pump out the air out of a NutriBullet for 20 bucks. And I show you guys how to do that in a video. I'll put a link down below so you guys could get the experience of vacuum blending without having to spend a lot of money. I also tested lots of different vacuum blenders, and of the least expensive ones, I like this one the best. This is actually called the Flexion, Flexzion. And I met the manufacturer at the trade show for this exact blender, and I have put this blender through its paces. I mean, it's not a Vitamix, it's not a high power blender, but for being like a 750 watt blender, it kicks some real butt, especially for being around $100. Now, I'm not sure if this one is still available. If it is not, I'm going to try to link down below a link to one that's just like it. There are many blenders like this that are coming out of China, and some of the ones I've tested are actually quite bad, so I really want you guys to get this one or the one made by the factory that makes this one. So, link is down below. That one may or may not be the Flexion, one that I am recommending. This one's quite durable. It only has a 1-year warranty, but hey, for around $100, it'll get you vacuum blending. If you don't have a blender, or if you don't want to convert your NutriBullet, that's definitely a good option. Now, the next option you guys have is if you guys have a Vitamix, right? Most Vitamixes, if it's a household model, whether that's a TNC, the 5000, the 5100, 5200, as long as it's not an Ascent model, there is now available discount juicers. Once again, the link is down below in the description. You could buy actually the BioChef container. This is BPA free, and with the container you get a vacuum pump. So now this fits right on the Vitamix, and you can now basically vacuum blend in your Vitamix. This one costs a little bit more. Once again, link is down below. I don't like to mention prices in the videos. But now you could use your high power Vitamix with the vacuum container. I have a full video review on this. Link is also down below for that, right? And then if you don't have a blender right now and you want to just get something good that's going to last a while, then I'd recommend this guy. This is the Try This Dynapro. So that's my favorite high-end vacuum blender at this time. Nice oversized 64-ounce carafe. I like the carafe because it's nice, large, and fat. The new model has sharpened blades, the DSP1050A-B. Comes with a vacuum accessory that runs on batteries. And this machine has a full 15-year warranty, so that's the longest warranty in the blending industry, that as far as I'm aware, for home use. So that's the one. Actually, I made blended salad in this the other night, and then I put it in my freeze dryer. So yeah, so no matter what else, I wish I could have told myself, John, get a vacuum blender. Or actually, back then I would have had to invent one. I mean, I could have probably done this to like a NutriBullet or something else, but I didn't even have any concept of that. And on the same token, as much as I did a lot of dehydrating when I first got into raw foods, I would have told myself, John, get a freeze dryer, because freeze drying happens when things are frozen and under vacuum, so it preserves significantly more nutrients, than standard dehydration does. I hope to have a video where I compare the freeze drying versus dehydration and to literally show you guys the difference. I mean, I could freeze dry avocados and they look just like an avocado, only the water's removed. It retains like 99% of the nutrients, whereas if you dehydrate, it may only retain, 50 to 60% of the nutrients may be retained, and you're losing a significant portion. Plus, it makes the texture harder, and some things just literally cannot be dehydrated. Like avocados will just turn black because they're oxidizing so much. Apples will turn brown in the freeze dryer. Apples stay the same color. Just the water's removed. So it's just so much more amazing technology. I didn't mention that in this video other than just a little small clip here because they are quite expensive at this time. So unless that's advanced like extra credit. But I want you guys seriously to get a vacuum blender, convert your NutriBullet to get one, get a $100 one. or get something so you guys can vacuum blend if you guys are still blending, so you don't lose these valuable phytonutrients that can definitely make a difference. The 8th tip I want to share with my previous self, or share with you guys today, is I want you guys really to focus on phytonutrient-rich foods, or foods that are nutrient-dense and or have other health benefits, even if they're not completely raw, right? And so you could do this to any level you want. I incorporate to the level that I believe and see fit at this point in my life. When I was younger, I'm like, I'm just going to eat a lot of bananas because they're cheap. They're the cheapest organic produce item you guys could get, 69 cents a pound. And they're definitely rich in calories, and they're definitely a fruit, so they're healthy. But in my opinion, fruit is not fruit is not fruit. All fruits are not created equal, right? There are better fruits or there are worse fruits depending on your specific situation and your specific goals. If you're an athlete and you're a runner and you need to get a lot of calories in, hey, bananas might be good. But if you're like most of us that's not doing high athletic performance, you guys don't need a lot of bananas. I'm kind of, at this point, I'm eating for health, number one, and longevity, number two. And instead of bananas, I'd rather have you guys eat this. And so let's go ahead and open up my fridge, show you guys what it's inside. This is my fridge. It's totally packed, pretty much always with all kind of food. Do you want to be my friend? Anyways, as you guys can see, I just have like stacks and stacks and stacks of blueberries. I bought like 12 cases of blueberries, organic blueberries, last trip to the produce terminal. You guys probably would too if you guys got them for $7 a case of 12. I have lots of basically blueberries in here. I got some blackberries in here. I basically have my purple cactus fruit juice, really rich, pigmented, not just white bananas. I mean, there's like betalains in here. There's anthocyanins in here. I want you guys really to eat like really rich, pigmented foods, so try to get the deepest color fruits you guys can, instead of just bananas, and instead of dates that are high calorie, eat some fresh fruit or juice some fruits, for that matter. Another thing that I have incorporated into my diet are more beans, As a raw foodist, when I got into this, I'm like, oh, beans, they're not fit for human consumption. I barely ate them. I maybe had some sprouted lentils and, certain beans once in a while. I tried sprouted chickpeas. They give me bad gas, so that I basically didn't eat them. And, now I'm learning beans are so beneficial and so healthy, so you should probably try to eat as many as you can. So any opportunity I can, I'm growing sugar snap peas in my garden. I'm buying organic sugar snap peas. I'm eating more peas and beans. One of the ways I do that is I get natto here. This is the Megumi natto, and this is basically 100% soybeans that have been cooked, but then actually they're fermented with bacteria. So these can be considered a live food, although they are not a raw food. If you want more information on some of these other foods that I'm eating, check the link down below. 10 foods that I eat that actually aren't raw. And that would be the natto. Also eat tempeh, as well as some other things. So I want to share also some other beans I eat, which are right here. So I usually never used to like to eat these. This is like organic green peas from Costco. You're like, John, they're frozen, man. They're blanched before they freeze them, so they're not raw. All right, so I'm not a raw foodist. Whatever. I said I eat 99% raw. Most of my diet is fresh stuff, right? If I make a soup at night, I might put a handful of these green peas to like add some extra calories, flavors, and nutrition to my soup, plus get some of the beneficial beans, because peas are a bean enemy, right? And so, my diet isn't made out of organic green peas that have been blanched, but these are still a whole health food, right? And these are healthier than like most other things out there. I'm not going to say go crazy and eat McDonald's. That's definitely not nutrient dense. But there are select foods that are healthier than others. I'd always tell you guys, hey, instead of overeating dates, it'd be better to probably like steam some kale in a pressure cooker, right? And eat that instead of some dates. I'd probably rather eat steamed kale instead of dates, or eat steamed kale instead of bananas. I would personally rather drink carrot juice, and I have tons of purple carrots. I don't know if you guys saw them in there. Instead of eat bananas, because purple carrots, yes, okay. They're carrots, you're juicing a lot of them, you're removing some of the fiber, half the fiber still stays, even in juice. There's soluble and insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber stays in the juice. You're getting rid of the insoluble. But now I got the purple anthocyanins that are not in bananas, unless they invent a purple banana one of these days, which I think they might be GMO. Oh, they're GMO in pineapples these days. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, and the other thing that I've included lately that I usually eat in small quantities is mushrooms. So, I have this mushroom powder, and mushrooms should be heat processed or cooked before you eat them to break down the chitin and some of the toxins in the mushroom. So this powder that I get, Mushroom Harvest, they're out of Oregon, has a blend of 14 different mushrooms that I'll basically just sprinkle into my, soups and salads and salad dressings at night. So I get the benefits of the healthy mushrooms. So including some of the mushrooms and the beans, I've also ramped up my ginger and turmeric consumption that I, hadn't usually eaten in any large quantities when I was younger. I've also increased, some growing garlic and garlic greens and onion greens in my garden, and including those in my diet. I used to exclude those because I was taught, by some schools of thought they're toxic, and while I wouldn't make a meal out of garlic or onions, and I don't think many people do, I like to include it for a flavor enhancement and also for its protective benefits. Garlic and onions are in the allium family of plants, and they are shown to be anti-cancer, as is the cruciferous family of plants. The cabbage, kale, cauliflower, bok choy, mustard greens, all these kind of things. So I really want you guys to, go for the kale or go for the bok choy instead of the lettuce at the store, because they're higher up. And if you want more information on looking at foods in terms of their nutrient density or benefit, look up the ANDI, ANDI scoring system that was put out by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. It's not a complete system, but at least it'll give you some idea of the foods that are more or less beneficial to eat for you. And I want you guys to choose, and I should have been choosing all this time, more nutrient dense foods, because I believe my health would have been even better than it is today if I did. So my 9th tip to my previous self would be to, John, take the right supplements. I was kind of supplement defiant and under the impression that, if I eat a good diet, eat all raw, I don't need to have supplements, right? And that was not the best ideas back then. And since then, I've changed my ways significantly. And although I'm not like a supplement whore and takes tons of supplements, my personal belief is that we could get the majority of our nutrients from our foods, especially even eating a balanced diet. But some nutrients may not be available due to, standard agriculture practices that have deviated a lot from how nature used to operate, And so I do take a few supplements. I do take some that I believe can be helpful. I generally like to take supplements or, things that are basically whole food based. So taking a green powders and different powders instead of taking an isolated vitamin C, could have amla berry, which have all these powdered bags, all kinds of different stuff, as you guys will see. Instead of taking a vitamin C supplement, or simply I like to juice bell peppers. Bell peppers are super high in vitamin C. I juice them, remove some of the fiber, drink the bell pepper juice. That's like a vitamin C hit, and I've actually lots of bell peppers right now. This time of year I got some really good deals. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into some of the supplements that I'm currently taking. And this is like my cabinet here. Probably could be better organized. I focus on making too many videos. But I have lots of different powders and things in here. I mean, what is this? I could just pull out all kinds of stuff. Whoops, and things are dropping everywhere. I mean, this was actually superfood elderberry powder. The power of purple, Or no, this is actually bilberry. I have elderberry too. But yeah, I want you guys to, this may not be super necessary, but I want to maximize my health and make sure I have some different nutrients that are existing in different foods, and I prefer to take whole food based powders. So if you guys only had to get one powder, I'd recommend this. This is the Vita Mineral Green Powder. This is basically the most comprehensive green powder with all different kinds of things in there. Algae and greens and probiotics and enzymes, all kinds of good stuff. That's the one I would recommend if you didn't want to go crazy and get all these different separate ingredients. I have acai powder, matcha tea powder, tart cherry berry powder, all kinds of stuff. And I could just get the foods and instead eat the foods, but sometimes to get elderberries, I don't live where elderberries grow. Maybe you could grow them yourself. So I want to try to have the biggest range of foods, because I want to get my nutrients from food, not from supplements. That being said, some supplements can be quite helpful. Let's see, we'll first start off with these guys. So this is an enzyme product I'm currently taking at this time. It's called the Enzorb by Sun Warrior. This are plant-based enzymes. Enzymes, they're definitely in the food, so we don't necessarily need to focus on eating a lot of enzymes, although I believe enzymes can be helpful for other things, and I believe, they can be helpful. I'm not going to go into it any further than that, and these are the enzymes I take. I try to take them every night before bed, try to keep my blood, flowing and clean them out. I've had live blood cell analyses, and most of the time they say, oh, you need to have more enzymes to clean out your blood. And so I'm like, all right, I don't think they could hurt. Are they completely necessary? debatable, all right? Next, oh, this is not debatable. So I take these probiotics, right? And this is the Essential Formulas Dr. Hero's Probiotics, you know, and I like these probiotics because these are not a supplement. John, they look like a supplement. They're little capsules. If I open this up, oops, they're falling out. You know, they look like this. These are capsules, but in the capsule, basically, it's food. So they basically go to the mountains in Japan, harvest all these herbs, put them in like wooden bucket vats, and play music to these vats, and put beneficial probiotics in there, and they basically ferment them. So this is basically a food-based probiotic supplement, unlike any other supplement that's like this white powder that's made in a lab. This is actually just made by nature, really. And so this really is getting some of the probiotics in there. You know, if those of you guys are like true vegans, I think this may contain some kind of beeswax or something in the shell, so it's not totally vegan. So, you know, if that bothers you, then you wouldn't want to get this. You know, I don't really have a problem with that. And it's not like my diet is made out of these probiotics. I take them irregularly. Sure, I should take them more, but in addition, I also make my own fermented foods. I have a couple on my counter right now. But I believe probiotics can be quite helpful and quite beneficial. You know, the study of microbiome is ever enhancing and ever growing, and it's just becoming very apparent on how important the microbiome and our beneficial microbes are important for us, not only in our digestive system, but other systems in our body. So if you eat fruits and vegetables, you're going to get some of these endogenous microorganisms that are already on the food in you, and you're providing them the food they like, which is the plant foods, and you're going to get them in you. But I like to supplement with these guys, especially if I'm like going to foreign countries. I never leave home without these guys or my travel bag. If I start getting some kind of food poisoning, stomach hurting or whatever, I'll take a bunch of these, and normally you know, that goes away. So I definitely like those a lot. Other things I've been taking right now, oh yeah, this is super important. I recommend this for everybody. This is the B12 I'm taking at present time, although it is subject to change. I always like to rotate different kinds. This is a B12. Just like to spray it under my tongue and get my B12. You know, I need to be more compliant with my supplements and spray it more often. I usually have this out on my desk or where I sit and work, and I see it and I just spray it. You know, make sure you're not B12 deficient. You know, that's a problem with society as a whole, and the cleanliness of society. You know, even meat eaters don't have high B12 levels these days, and that's because, you know, how the animals are being raised. Not animals have B12 either. If they're eating corn and soy, they're not in fields pulling up basically grass from the roots and eating roots and getting the microbes and the bacteria in them. They're not going to have B12. So basically my solution at this time is to take it, although I am also supplementing my garden with some of the different bacteria that can make B12 in my garden, and then you know, hope that I get those from eating my unwashed veggies. But that being said, that's not good enough. I'm taking a supplement just to be sure. Let's see, I think I'm getting, oh, and then another thing super important, super critical, is I want you guys to get your omega-3 levels checked, right? Even if you're raw foods, if you're eating too many nuts, and if you have an imbalanced diet, you know, your omega-3 to 6 balance may not be correct, which means then you will not be converting the omega-3 and 6 to EPA and then to DHA. And especially as you get older, and this is something I wish I could have told my previous self, you know, as you get older, you know, you may lose your brain facilities, you know, if you don't have enough essential fats and you're not converting properly and not enough DHA. And so, like, I don't want to take that chance, right? I'm going to supplement. You know, I don't supplement with any kind of fish waste product or fish oil, but I take this stuff. This is actually by the Sun Warrior. This is actually algae-based. This is the best algae-based product that I found. There's lots of different ones out there, but this is the best one I found. It's produced actually in America. This is the Sun Warrior Omega-3 Vegan DHA and EPA, and this is the one I like. It's more of a more whole food, although I wish I could just buy the algae that this is made from and eat the whole algae in a larger quantity than buying the algae that's been processed and extracted just the DHA out of, you know. And I like that this is a, you know, a deeper color, has a little bit more nutrients in there than most DHA EPAs. I did pull this out of the cupboard here, although this actually does live in the fridge, as do my probiotics. All right. So yeah, DHA super important. I like to actually just make my favorite recipe with the DHA oil. I don't like to generally eat oils, but what I'll do is I'll take this stuff, which is basically I have freeze-dried peas and corn. I'll open some of those little capsules of the DHA oil, sprinkle that on here, and then like add in some herbs and spices, shake it all up so these get coated, and then I like to eat that as a nice crunchy snack. So yeah, definitely a good way to do that. The other supplement I've been taking lately, which, you know, this is just what I do. I'm not telling you guys you should do this. You know, I'm taking this stuff. This is called the isogenesis, and I went to this talk, and the guy talked about telomeres. And basically, if you look inside here, for the most part, but not entirely, this is basically certain different plant extracts, you know. They got like root extract, green tea, you know, pomegranate, lots of different, you know, basically foods put into a capsule that then say will grow your telomeres. Now, being on a raw foods diet will keep your telomeres the same or even lengthen them a little bit, because if you're eating high antioxidant foods and low, you know, like foods lower in calories, and you know you're not eating the meats and all the processed food products, you're gonna have better telomeres. But I believe telomeres are important, and you know, if I gotta eat this stuff to you know, increase my telomeres, you know, a little bit, or even if it doesn't work, I believe it's a good investment. So I mean, I'm just telling you guys like it is. You know, there's probably a few ingredients in here I don't agree with, but you know, for the most part, if it could make me healthier and basically allows me to have more of different phytonutrients from different plant foods instead of trying to gather, source, and have all these 100 powders in my cupboard that I don't eat as regularly as I should, and it makes it easy. I take these every day, every night. I think that is quite beneficial. So I have other episodes where I kind of go into some of the different healthy supplements. I don't like to take a vitamin D supplement, although it may be necessary for some people. I like to just be out in the sun, or instead of being out in the sun, if I can't do that, I like to take a high vitamin D mushroom powder, or just eat mushrooms that are high in vitamin D. I get the mushroom powder that's already been processed for me, so I can just get the vitamin D from my food. But yeah, the sun's the best way for that. But everybody, in my opinion, should be on vitamin B12 for sure. So the 10th and final tip I would give myself are kind of like the same thing, but a little bit different, all right? Number one would be to stock up on produce, right? It's always better to have a little bit too much than too little, especially if you have a compost pile going on outside, right? You know, I always like to have too much fruit, too many vegetables in my garden and around me, because literally that puts the pressure on. It's like, John, you got to use these vegetables, right? You got to use these fruits. You got to eat more of this stuff and get it into you, you know? And maybe it might be good for some of you guys just to have a little bit more produce, not go crazy like I do, you know, and have like a ton of extra stuff. Have your fridges always pretty much packed to the brim of food, like so much that you can't even eat it. I need like a significant other to share all this stuff with, because I pretty much buy for more than one person. That being said, luckily I have a freeze dryer and I do a lot of juicing, so I could crank through some of this produce actually quite quick if I wanted to, right? And along with that is actually buy wholesale. Oh my God, I would have loved this if I knew this when I got started in raw foods. I mean, I was just shopping. I was just a schmuck shopping at like health food stores, you know, and going to Rayleigh's and paying full prices, retail prices for stuff. Although I'd look around for the best deals, you know, I didn't know that, you know, there's a local produce terminal near me just an hour away that I could have been saving like 50%, 75%, or even more money if I bought produce wholesale. You know, for a lot of you guys, there may be a produce terminal near you. For a lot of you guys, there won't be. And then I would recommend shopping the sale. So when the sale papers come out in my area, it's on Wednesdays, go shopping. Like just yesterday I went out shopping and got jackfruit for 50 cents a pound on sale. When it's not on sale, it's like $1 a pound. You know, just last week they had like 3 red bell peppers for $1 organic, celery for $1 organic, you know, Fuji apples organic for 79 cents. So you could still find good deals around you. It helps to live in a bigger city with a lot of different markets and shop around. But I would recommend buying wholesale. I mean, here's some of the wholesale buys I got. I think this case of tomatoes on this side, it was like 12 packs of organic cherry tomatoes for I think it was like $8. And then over on this side I got like a case of like ruby grapefruit for $5. I mean, $5 for the whole case. Most of you guys might go down the store and buy like 5 grapefruits for $5 because they're like $1 each. You know, so when it's this cheap, I just buy a lot. And if I have some waste, it's all right. But you know, some of these I got to go through here and like juice a lot of them. And so I'll have juice in my fridge that I can then grab and go if I'm on the road or doing something, leaving the house. You know, that's why you saw in my fridge I have lots of different juices and produce in there, you know. So that's just kind of my motto. Maybe you don't want to have too much like I do. I don't actually tend to compost a lot of extra waste because I do use it. I can't freeze it, you know, start smoothing it, start juicing it before it goes bad. I do lose some, you know. I just composted like 4 oranges that got moldy or something, but they're only $5 for a whole case, right? and then that goes into my compost, then turned into soil that then feeds my vegetable garden outside that you guys saw a little bit earlier, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have enough fresh fruits and fresh vegetables around, you won't even have the opportunity to eat them. So I want you guys to have enough always. That might mean stop by the produce store, the health food store on your way home from work more than once a week. You know, maybe every day, maybe every couple days. You know, go to the farmer's market. Even better yet, just like I said earlier, start your own garden so you can have an abundance of fresh vegetables and fruits to eat in the world. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, like this format, want me to do more videos with my tips, because I have a lot more, trust me, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also be sure to share this video on your social media with others, for people that are into a raw foods diet that you may think it could help. I'm glad I could share what I've learned over the years and be as healthy as I am, and I want that for all you guys. That's the only reason why I make my videos, because, you know, when I got sick, almost lost my life, you know, I knew there had to be a better way, and part of my goal was like, hey, if you get healthy, John, you're going to just share this with others, because I just felt literally betrayed by society that I did not learn this in school, and that even to this day, kids are still learning the 4 food groups and my plate and all this kind of garbage and eating crap food that's just causing a lot of health problems. So I want to be a voice for good, and so your help is appreciated to share this message with others. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I've come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or will be learning on my YouTube channel. Also be sure to click the little bell so you get notified when my episodes come out. You never know what you'll be learning, and I don't want you guys to miss a single episode. Finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to you guys the best and healthiest ways to eat more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables in your diet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.